Hi, ladies and gentlemen. This is I, Makalesi.
Cyrus King.
And today we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of book recommendations, giving you guys some good books to read, because I know that when people look at our information, they're like, wow, there's so much information, and how'd you get to all that information? And a lot of it actually comes from just studying and reading and analyzing some stuff. And, sometimes like some of the earlier books I've read, it helped me get on my path, but then now they're just kind of, as my knowledge expanded, they're like no longer validated. For example, David Icke, like I was really into him, but then as I got more into it, my knowledge started transforming and my information started transforming. So I want to give you guys some books that I think are really good that people can learn from in my current state of spirituality. And I believe that the more people can learn and decipher and obtain knowledge on their own, the more better they can be, and I think the better society would be.
Definitely.
Oh, and real quick before I go on, I did meet one of my fans. Yesterday, me and Cyrus were walking in Santa Monica with our dogs in the morning, and it was like surprising. He's like, "Hey, what's up, Makalesi?" And I was surprised because I didn't have any makeup on, and I was like, "Oh my god!" But anyways, it was cool. I know he's probably like, I was just shocked. Like, who is this? He's like, "I like your videos." Just want to give a shout out there. Actually, I met two of my subscribers, and they were both joggers, which I thought was really good because that means they're into health and fitness.
That's cool.
You're with me, right?
Yeah, no question.
Yeah, I don't really like, being recognized, but whatever. But anyway, so going on forward, how many books do you have, Cyrus?
7 for my Kindle.
And I have, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 7, 8, so together that'd be like how many, like?
We're 15.
15 books. This is a good start for people who who are new to this wisdom or new on their path, and when they want to do the research on their own without just being told what to do through videos, right?
Definitely.
So let's start from really the beginning of some of the really basic, fundamental books that people can learn from. What is your recommendations?
Well, I definitely would probably always start people with the Kabbalion. When I send people a book list, I always start with the Kabbalion. I think it's a really good book to really break you into Hermeticism. Mm-hmm. And I think it's the fundamental.
So then for people who are asking, I would actually recommend this book too. But people who are questioning what is the concept of Hermeticism, how would you break that down to them?
Basically, we just look at it as a system that you can say started in Egypt, was modified in Greece, and it's basically a system that understands the concept of being able to educate your animal mind. But not just educate it, heal your animal mind and heal your body back, like the elements in your body, mm-hmm. and make it come to... When they come in balance, you could then receive higher types of information. So Hermeticism is usually broken up into 4 different branches. So it's like you could look at it as a philosophy, mm-hmm. but it's also broken into 4 different branches: magic, astrology, alchemy, and theurgy. So it basically is like a system that breaks up in 4, and it really is centered around the elements and basically being able to balance elements in your body, and then that will transform your animal mind. And then you'll be able to receive a higher dose of knowledge. But
going back, okay, so Hermeticism goes back all the way to Egypt, which is also known as Kemet. A lot of times I reference it as Kemet. A lot of time there's also an association with Melchizedek, right?
Yeah, it could be. Hermes.
In Hermes in Greece, but then Melchizedek, then also Thehuti or Thoth, which could be the same representation of an entity that can go throughout different spiritual systems. Hermeticism also has simple principles that all spirituality in conjunction with religions have, that if you pay attention to, they all have different ways of speaking of them, but they should have some basic truth based on Hermeticism.
Well, all religions come from Hermeticism. Like if you look at the 4 branches: astrology, alchemy, magic, and theurgy, like that's the origin of all. Even we talk about spiritual systems or even sciences.
And that's what I want people to understand. So why it's easier for me to look at other spiritual systems personally and not get judgmental against one religion versus the other, and see the unification of all religion is the concept of Hermeticism, and the concept of seeing that they all have some valid truths to it, but they all have their unique way of expressing it. So because we like to look at things from Hermeticism, we don't really get emotional on the differences. We try to look at the unification of it. And with the Kabbalion, it talks about some of those principles.
Definitely.
And it's written by the 3 initiates.
Well, 2 of them, it's kind of common knowledge in the occult world, but not really in the I guess, mainstream world. But a guy named Paul Foster Case, who we'll probably talk about for his book on the tarot, and a guy named William Walker Atkinson, who he was the person who really started the new thought movement, thinking in the early 20th century, maybe like in the 1900s, going into the 20th century.
Would that be associated with also the New Age movement?
No, the New Age movement took concepts from them and repackaged it, but the New Thought movement was, I mean, you could look at it as the real version of what the New Age
precursor,
what it's supposed to be, because both of them wrote the Kabbalion. So the Kabbalion, like when you read William Atkins' books, you can see where you could look at it and see where the Kabbalion came from.
Right, because if you look at, for example, like the Kabbalion talks about the 7 Hermetic principles, which is mental transmutation. A lot of times people can see for the New Age community, they talk about thoughts create reality. The All, which is, they say the one source. The mental universe, which is like creating thoughts with reality. The divine paradox, which is basically that yin and yang concept. The All in all. The planes of correspondence. Vibrations, polarities, rhythm, causation, gender, mental gender, and hermetic axiom. So when you see that, you'll see that there's a lot of people use this hermetic principles in what you can call the New Age community, talking about mental transmutation, the universe is mental, thoughts create reality, the one source, the rhythms, vibration, etc. So that's why I like Kabbalion, because it really actually breaks it down from hermetic perception, and it's very thought-provoking. And you were saying that Paul Foster Case created this. So who's
well
one of the three
initiates?
initiates?
So two of them I know, Paul Foster Case and William Walker Atkinson. And William Walker Atkinson is interesting because he was really at the forefront of something called a New Thought movement, which the New Age movement probably copied.
Right.
In a sense, where they spoke everything you talk about, thoughts create reality, it's all about the mind. They speak about it.
Right, even BOTA, which is associated with Paul Foster Case.
But the difference will be is that in Hermeticism, one of the key components of Hermeticism is also the tarot. So it's not really just a simple saying thoughts create reality. You have to be able to know how to use colors in sequence, how to use the right images.
Right.
Like into your subconscious mind, a plant means something, whatever. A coin means something. You have to be able to use the right images, right colors, in the right sequence for it to work.
Right.
So the tarot is something usually associated with Hermeticism, and they go hand in hand. So I always say, when anybody always says, what should I read first? For me, I always send them to the Kabbalion, and then I go down to Paul Foster Case and William Walker Atkinson, because realistically, that should be the foundation of any type of stuff you're doing at this point.
Right, because it won't fragmentize or just do separations. It kind of gives a unification of everything through Hermeticism. Break down the simple principles that came from it, and then you can expand to different variations of that system. So we have the Kabbalions, which is the Kabbalion by the 3 initiates, which we know.
Said 2 out of 3.
2 out of 3. Who's the third? That's a mystery.
Yeah, some people say it was a guy named Brother Ray. I mean, there's always different variations. Yeah, I don't know for sure, but I know those 2 out of 3.
So potentially Brother Ray, but then there's Paul Foster Case and
William Walker Atkinson.
William Atkinson.
That is, William Walker Atkinson is so lethal. He even at his time, he even pretended to be an Indian yogi, and even Indians couldn't even tell the difference because he knew yoga that well. Like, he's definitely, like, when you look at those guys are definitely, initiates on the highest level.
Right.
For sure.
Okay. And then going from there, we have, branching off from that, we have the Wisdom of Tarot from Paul Foster Case, the Golden Dawn Tarot Series #1.
Yeah,
and this is a good book because it'll give you the good breakdown of the tarot based on the different major arcanas.
Yeah.
And it's written by Paul Foster Case, which we say is one of the 3 initiates from the Kabbalion, and it has a lot of association with the BOTA, which is more like a school that you can pay for lessons, and it has really good readings, and it talks about the different colors, the different variations, how to analyze each major arcana. The Wisdom of Tarot, why do you like it? Why would you recommend it?
Well, first of all, I like it because you see a lot of tarot. The thing about tarot is, like, when you tell someone do tarot, right? There's so much bad tarot card information out there.
Yeah, there is.
Bad tarot decks.
Yeah.
That I almost feel strange. Sometimes I don't even tell people to do that at first, unless I'm really dealing with them all the time, because I know they can go in the wrong direction. But Paul Foster Case's system is so lethal because even if someone was joining, like, let's say, the Freemasons or Rosicrucians, BOTA and Paul Foster Case's work would match that.
Right.
Probably in some way supersede that, and you're getting it without paying those thousands of dollars for degrees.
Right.
And the tarot is going to be the fundamentals of what you do as an occultist. So it's not something that you can really run away from or ignore. So I like his system because it's the most authentic for the price. You're not really paying a whole bunch of thousands for degrees, and
Right.
and maybe taking over, so because you don't even know half these lodges are even active lodges, to be honest. Sometimes they're more functional businesses.
Right.
So I like his work because it's the best you're gonna get at this point for the buck.
Right.
Like unless you are part of a real powerful secret society, you're not gonna get better.
And okay, so then what I also like about this too is, when we're doing with the tarot or the 22 major arcanas, I've said this many times in my videos and I'll say it again. Each major arcana is associated with the Hebrew alphabet, which is associated with the word created in the universe. And there's 22 letters of archetypes that can be associated with creation. So as you understand, you master one of the glyphs of the alphabet and one of the tarot cards, you understand the development of your spiritual awakening. And why it's good to understand the spirit yourself is because there's, when God said, I'm created man in my image, that's basically understanding yourself, and creation is understanding God's mind. Because to someone to say you're going to understand God's mind is kind of really ignorant, because you can't really understand God. He's massive. I mean, we're just a creation, but he gave a little bit of creation that we can understand to our capacity, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, that we could basically understand through these cards. Because when you understand these cards, our language or our way of understanding things is limited, but symbolism can penetrate our subconscious minds if we pay attention to it.
Well, speaking of subconscious mind, after you finish, there's also another book. Like I think after
this one,
after
right?
person Kabbalion first,
right? To get the principles, Kabbalion is good to get the principles of Hermeticism. What Hermeticism is, what are the fundamentals of it, and then go into the wisdom of tarot by Paul Foster Case.
Yeah, it's funny. We say first and second.
It doesn't really matter.
Because the wisdom of tarot comes with 2 other books, but it's really written where if like let's say you read this and you want to branch off something else, you could. But if you want to go further in tarot, then you can read the other 2 extensions.
Right.
So we're not going to include the other 2 books.
Right.
Just this is like going to
this is just a base level for understanding.
Yeah, for sure. So to me, after they read Kabbalion, the Wisdom of Tarot, for me, another book by William Walker Atkinson will be called The Subconscious and Super Subconscious Planes of Mind, which is extremely important because even when you're doing tarot, they kind of teaches you that's the first 3 things it teaches you: the magician, high priestess, and the fool. So when you start to study occultism, you have to be able to understand the different parts of your mind.
Right.
Because, when we talk about Adam and Eve, really, it's different parts of your mind. Conscious,
the masculine and feminine.
Yeah, so that's crucial. So the person will have to get a working understanding of that if they really want to do anything serious. So I think that book, again, The Subconscious and Super Subconscious Planes of the Mind, excellent number 3 to read after that.
Okay. And what does that book basically break down?
It's basically breaking down the mind. Like, it's basically breaking down the different planes, but it's also breaking down the different compartments of the mind. And getting the person to, for instance, understand what's the superconscious mind, what's the conscious mind, what's the subconscious mind.
Right.
How to kind of weave them into one, where like Adam and Eve, I guess, are married again. Very important book.
Okay.
3rd book, I would say.
And then book after that?
Well, after that, the person I would probably, it kind of goes into, I think a good book probably will be The Secret Science.
I think, yeah, I'm talking about someone who doesn't know anything at all. Like someone who, the pentagram, occultism, tarot card, knowledge, wisdom, hermeticism, as above so below, don't really understand anything about occultism, and is kind of probably even have a little bit of fear of occultism. I think The Secret Science for the Physical and Spiritual Transformation of Man,
Excellent book.
Hermetic Philosophy, Book 1 by John Baines, is definitely good.
Yeah.
So for those people who, everything we're talking about, from Hebrew alphabet to Tree of Life to everything I'm saying, it's all new to you. The Secret Science for the Physical and Spiritual Transformation of Man, Hermetic Philosophy, Book 1 by John Baines, is great. It'll break down everything for you. It's very easy to read.
Yeah, very easy to read.
Yeah, so I know sometimes Paul Foster Case can be, or like Israel Regari could be very complicated for people because they're very technical. But if you just want to be just a basic understanding, not hard to read, and not very layman language, I highly recommend The Secret Science, because it will definitely catch you up with a lot of these things that, we throw words at you and people don't understand. Well, what does this word mean? What is a pentagram? What is a tree of life? Why is the Hebrew alphabet? What is this? the Hebrew alphabet's a little bit more advanced, but it'll probably just give you a basic understanding of occultism and hermeticism. Just a basic understanding. I highly recommend that for the beginner.
And I think when they read that fourth, it would ground the other three. Like you would actually understand. Like it's because he's doing it in such a way where you're doing it kind of modern times.
Right.
Where the other three are a little bit older.
Yeah.
It kind of modernizes the other three, and it has the pentagram. Like you kind of see it's kind of getting you into the feel of what a hermetic teacher will be teaching.
Yeah, and I actually think, because I know with the wisdom, Paul Foster Case is very brilliant, but I think sometimes he's a little bit more advanced for people. Even the Kabbalion, I think, maybe a little bit advanced for people. I'm sorry to say that, but I think the Secret Science, John Baines, is for people who just want to just get, like, I just need an overview of all this.
So it sounds like for you, that'll probably be
the first one. Yeah, just because it just goes... with these, they're already talking about Hermeticism and the philosophies and the principles and the tarot cards. If you just want a basic understanding, the Secret Science for Physical and Spiritual Transformation of Man, which is not breaking down any really teachings, it's just giving you a good philosophy, is that one, The Secret Science by John Baines.
Definitely. I mean, yeah, so I mean, the person could look at it and say, you could go with that first. I mean, cause,
yeah, it's different variations, but these are just our recommendations.
So I would say if the person is not advanced at all, you don't know anything. Maybe read Secret Science first.
Yeah, just to get your feet wet, and so especially if you have fear, just to have your feet wet and understand it. Because if you have fear, all this is going to sound like devil worshiping to you, anyways.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I would say that. Now, what would you say fifth for me? Well, you go ahead.
I would have to actually say Franz Bardon, the Universal Master Key, and this is basically talking about Hermeticism again, but it's just kind of giving you a good way of understanding, like just understand the basics of Hermeticism and like ways to act and like it has simple things like courage and what courage means and the enterprising of spirit, the sexual connection between men and women. I mean, I like this book because it's very thought-provoking, but it's very simplistic. Like the strong individuality, how to attain success, control the subconscious, to me, is lost through repetition, watchfulness, hope, just little things like that. It's a real good book just to understand the basic principles or philosophy of Hermeticism.
And I think, like the Secret Science, it's ease to understand.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I recommend this for more as like a new beginner. The Universal Key from Francis Bardon. It gives you just a good. This really won't teach you like occultism per se, but just gives you a good base understanding. It's kind of like what are certain things, concepts, and how it should be applied from a hermetic perception. Yeah.
And then after that, I probably would go The Secret Science of Love by John.
Actually, there's no. I don't think that there's any like you have to read this book or like there's different variations that it depends on what you like, but these are obviously just all elementary levels for the layman mind.
Definitely, I think The Secret Science of Love kind of goes along with the Secret Science, the first Secret Science book that we gave. Secret Science of Love is going to probably make it a little more personal.
Which is by John Baines.
Yeah, both by John Baines. It's probably going to make it more personal. A lot of people are into relationships, so even if you're not, you have to understand certain fundamentals about it, because a lot of spirituality is directly related to that. You know, who you bring into your life, your thoughts, your control of your thoughts, extremely important. I think The Secret Science of Love, if you have any questions about that type of stuff, probably might be one of the only 3 books you have to read, and once you get it, you understand it from a spiritual perspective. And a lot of
people are really into like relationships and loves and twin flames and soulmates and all that great stuff. So people, if that's, and I'm not really into that type of stuff, but if you're really into like the science of love and relationships and romance and what is spirituality means for you and finding the new person that you want, whatever, I think that's a good book by John Baines.
Definitely.
He gets kind of real in that one too. Definitely. So it's definitely something to pay attention to.
Definitely. I mean, for me next, I would probably go with another William Atkins book. He has a book called The Solar Plex, or The Abdominal Brain. It kind of goes along with the first one we told you about, the superconscious and the subconscious. I like this because it's going to kind of get the person, because, he's kind of fundamentally grounded in both the East and West. So it's going to probably, when you read this, I'm going to have some Eastern suggestions. It'll make it easy for the person to understand that. But I like this book because he gets you thinking about the stomach and the small intestines and the stuff that you wouldn't associate with
spirituality.
Your brain. It's so important to understand that how your stomach works when you eat. You get actually charge of food and get it to kind of get your brain to actually help your subconscious mind like to do certain things. Very important book, and I think
Is
it's both.
he comes more from a Eastern
Well, no, I mean
perception?
he wrote the Kabbalah, so I mean
No, I know, but it kind of seems like
Well, yeah, well,
John Bain. Like it seems like
Oh
when
yeah,
you
because if you read John Baines is gonna be like, don't mess with these at all,
right.
right? So yeah, because I mean, a lot of people he actually used to go by another name, a yogi's name, and write books. So,
What was the name?
the yogi name was, I'm trying to pronounce it right. I think it was something like Yogi Manchukuda or something like that. It was, it's funny when I actually got that book. I didn't know it was the same author. Like it's almost like he wrote like he changed his whole style up.
Just like they changed the name to Three Initiates.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because I know like Francis Bardon and Paul Foster Case and John Baines is all more Western occultism, which deals with more like ceremony magic, but then it seems like he comes more from like a Eastern philosophy, which, well, he fuses both, but it's kind of nice to have a fusion between two.
Well, yeah, I mean, well, the thing is, when you read Paul Foster Case's book, whenever you read Paul Foster Case talks about something from the East, it's still going to be from, because he's the one who taught him that. So it's like basically all of them kind of had to go through the East for certain things,
Right.
But he pretended to be a yogi, so obviously he knows his yoga,
Right.
for sure.
Right.
So I think the book on the subconscious, I mean the stomach, excellent book because you would never associate that with
And what was
spirituality.
the name of that book again?
The name of the book is called The Solar Plex or the Abdominal Brain. Very good book.
It's the solar plexus, as in the solar plexus chakra, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a very good book.
Okay.
Definitely. So after that, I mean, we have a few.
Those are kind of like our elementary first getting into type books.
I have another book, The Science of Yoga by Swami Vinaka. Extremely important. You will hear a lot of Western. Anytime you hear a Western occultist talk about the East, if they know what they're doing, they're gonna go back to him. Very important book. I think people need to know that because he's gonna teach you yoga, but from how a real yogi would teach you.
Right.
And he tells you it's really mental discipline. Mental discipline becomes like when you start these books and this knowledge, you need to be mentally disciplined. So he kind of breaks that stuff down. He breaks it down.
Why the mental is bad good.
I mean, well, he breaks down like yoga, like straight up, like OG style, like the way it's supposed to be taught. And when you read that, you'll be able to differentiate between how the New Age people took the yoga and how it really supposed to be taught.
Right.
So I think it's a really good book. And if you read the books before, then go to that, you understand a lot better. And it'll give you the mental discipline, the patience to be able to really have a future in occultism, to be honest. Because you need patience, you need to understand how the discipline of mind, why it's important.
Right.
He teaches all that. He teaches it very simple.
Okay.
So, Science of Yoga, excellent book as well.
Okay. Science of Yoga.
Yeah, for sure. You have anything else you want to go after that?
Is this elementary or going to go higher?
Well, we're going.
We'll just
now
go
we're
different.
we're getting lukewarm.
Lukewarm. Okay.
Now we're getting lukewarm.
So then there's a book I really like by Francis Bardon called The Initiation into Hermetic. And this book is a little bit more complicated. So if you don't, he gets into like the electric fluid, the magnetic fluid, the astral light, the astral body, and to the magnetic pull of the planet. It gets a little bit more advanced. So this is for someone who probably knows a little bit of Hermeticism and occultism and wants just something to understand. Francis Bardon, Initiation into Hermeticism is something I highly recommend. It's a lot. It's funny because when you read it, it talks about the mental plane, truth, religion, God, all these different types of magic schools of the soul. But what happens is when you're reading it, it's funny because you can think like, oh, you can just bypass all the information just reading it, thinking you're digesting it. But you actually, like for me, I actually had to put a highlighter out because he drops a lot of knowledge. And if you don't really pay attention, you can just like completely go through it with understanding. So it's a little bit more complex. Like if it's someone who just wanted to start to learn about this stuff and didn't read the couple books that we recommend, this book will probably be really complicated for you, or you'll probably fall asleep to it because he throws in a lot of really high level knowledge in there. But the thing about those, he uses very simple language. Like he breaks down the elements, why is it important, how does it work, what part of the body it works with. He gets really into the basic studying of magic because now it's getting to working and understanding the philosophy and the practical use of magic. So I highly recommend this for someone who's starting to understand magic.
Well, I would say it's interesting because the book comes in two parts. The first part is really more he's breaking down knowledge, the theoretical part.
Right.
The reason why the book is awesome is because the second part
It's a
So
practical
lethal,
use, yeah.
it would take, I think, some people 15 years to cover all those exercises. But I would say this: if you
It's,
master,
that sounds very
yeah.
complicated.
But if you,
Yeah.
I would say this though: if you master, if you not even master, if you just are semi grounded in it, you'll be a totally different person. You'll probably be able to match a lot of people that you read about.
Yeah.
But it's just
Yeah.
that I mean, take you 10, 15 years if you're good. For
Yeah.
some people, they may not finish in this lifetime, and that's just
Yeah.
the first part of the second. I mean, the second part of the book, and then
Yeah.
after that, he has two other ones with it. We're not even including now,
Right,
So,
because
yeah.
he talks about making portals
Yeah.
and just create like, a lot of stuff, but it's complicated, but it's more for the advanced mind.
Yeah.
So definitely, I recommend Francis Byrd on Initiation to Hermeticism.
Another good book.
Another book, of course, now we're going to a little bit more
Advanced.
advanced.
Like if you want to start practicing.
If you want to start practicing, these are advanced. So these are like my personal favorites. Like one of my all-time favorite is Israel Regardie, The Garden of the Pomegranates, Scurrying the Tree of Life. And obviously for those who know Israel Regardie, he was like, was it the secretary of Aleister Crowley? So he has a lot of their wisdom. Aleister Crowley's wisdom also comes from, a lot of it comes from Kemet in Egypt, and a lot of it is associated with Kabbalah. So, you know, a lot of people who watch my videos know that I study a lot of the Kabbalah stuff and find it really interesting. And Egypt and Kemet. So this book is really good because it kind of breaks down. It's not a layman's book. You kind of have to know Kabbalah. If you have been watching my videos and I've been making it very simple for people to understand. So if you really understand my videos and you kind of resonate with it, I recommend to read this book because he actually just breaks it down a little bit more thorough with the Tree of Life, the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. He has diagrams, he has pictures, he breaks down each Hebrew alphabet one by one. He even has footnotes in it. He even breaks down gematria, the pentagram. He goes really into it. So this is one of the books I highly recommend for people to read, which is by Israel Regardie, The Guardians of the Paradigm.
And he gets into path working in that book too, which is kind of, you know, I mean, it's kind of when you start to become more practical with your Kabbalah, which, like Bardon, I think it's in the second half of the book, he gets into path working, which, you know,
which is
that'll
actually
take a while too.
walking the path. Yeah,
that'll take a while too. It's exercises.
Yeah, you realize that when you're dealing with spirituality of any degree, it's going to take a lifetime to master. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be like, oh, I did it in 2 years, I got a certificate, I'm a master. It's going to take a while to
anytime you say that, I got a weekend certificate in Reiki healing, stuff like that, like that's never real. No disrespect to them, but it's never real.
Okay, do you have any books?
Yeah, I mean, I have two more I always just like to cover really quick. There's a book, I could go back to Swami Vinaka again. He has another book, Patanjali's Yoga Informers.
Mm-hmm. And Patanjali is a Siddha.
Yeah.
And for people who don't know what Siddha is,
Siddha is someone who's kind of like what they call adept in the West. Mm-hmm. A person who's mastered elements to some extent where, you know, well, Siddhis, they have powers that are supernatural. Mm-hmm. Or, I don't like people to focus as much on that, but they have a supernatural understanding of nature, of the cosmos that befuddles regular people, in a sense. And he was one of them, and he wrote the book. And in a sense, that's basically the core. It's like the Bible of yoga, in a sense. And Swami Vinaka reenacted it, made it very simple. I think it's gonna probably become, if you read the Israel Regardie book, the Francis Bardon book, and read that, that's when you get more practical with your stuff. Mm-hmm. But I definitely think when you look at all the stuff that we said now, and you read this towards the end, it will give you a better understanding of certain principles that someone can't really teach you. You have to kind of experience, but it will help change your understanding enough where you're more receptive. Right. I think even Kabbalah means to receive. Like when you change yourself, you could be receptive to things that are right in your face you wouldn't even know it. Right. So that's an excellent book as well. Mm-hmm. I'll have to say.
And for me, what I like, a book that I recommend too for people who are taking the Kabbalah path, which is more like esoteric Christianity, I would recommend David Goodwin's The Goodwin's Kabbalistic Encyclopedia, and he spells Kabbalistic with a C as opposed to a K.
That's which is telling you he's a Gnostic Kabbalist.
Yeah, so for people who don't know the difference between Kabbalah with a K, Q, or C, how would you break it down for C?
C is just a Gnostic Kabbalist. It's a person,
K?
K is somebody going into Judaism. Judaism, but the esoteric Judaism.
Mm-hmm. And Q?
Q is more when you're doing Hermetic Kabbalah.
Hermetic
you're
Kabbalah.
More like, kind of like Paul Foster against them. You're more magical Kabbalah, whereas sometimes with the K, you might be just be theory. Right. I'm not saying it's always like that, but if you're doing with Kabbalah with a Q, with Hermetic Kabbalah, it's definitely not theory.
And C is more...
Christian. I mean, it's Gnostic.
Gnostic, which is more Christian.
Yeah.
So that's why when people watch a lot of my videos, I have a lot of a Christian influence because I kind of do Kabbalah with the C, but then most of it is Kabbalah with the Q. I kind of infuse them both. But a good resource book for the people to understand, because there's a lot of stuff to learn in Kabbalah, is Goodwin's Kabbalistic Encyclopedia, complete guide of both practical and esoteric application. The third edition, enlarged and revised by David Goodwin. And I like this book because it basically breaks down every Hebrew word, from the English translation to the Jewish translation to gematria. And it makes it a lot easier for people to understand. And you can just, because there's so many words and things to learn, because you're kind of learning a new language, it makes it much easier, a good reference book for people to learn and to read from.
Basically, real quick, I think because that actually think is an excellent book, because I think the encyclopedia book that you spoke about, I mean, you would use that. It's like an encyclopedia, literally. Like,
yeah, it's a reference book. You're not going to be reading the whole thing. No, it's like a dictionary.
Yeah, when you find out a concept, you look it up. You find out you want to go and study a number 10, 15, 400, you look it up. And so I think it's going to be something that don't look at it as a book, like reading it from front to back.
Right.
It's going to be a guidebook. It's
a reference book, yeah. It's called encyclopedia, yeah. And it's one of the books I highly recommend, and I actually use and I like.
And real quick, I think for one book your audience will probably like, it's a book called Astral World by William Walker Atkins. Again, I'm sorry, this is his third book now. But this is a really good book because, in a sense, like, when you read the stuff that Mac just told you, then you read the Astral World, it's kind of getting you ready for the big leagues, in a sense. And I think it's an excellent
book. What's the big leagues?
The big leagues is the big leagues. Honestly,
when you start hanging with the big boys.
No. The big leagues, honestly, is when it's not
the professionals.
It's not theory anymore. Like they always say, like even in tarot, Paul Foster Case says the first 13, like the Fool to the Death card, is more theory. You have to be grounded. You have to be grounded in theory first.
Right.
But when you get to the Temperance card, the 14th card, no, now it's become a laboratory. You got to start doing it. And the first laboratory is your body, your physical body. Then I guess you could say it's your house after that. No, like big boy just means when you beyond theory. And you start practicing. Yeah. So now, actually, when people say, "What do you mean by doing stuff every day?" I'm like, "Oh, you gotta do rituals every day. Like it's not." After a certain point, it be going to way past just reading up or just looking at a YouTube video, reading a book, saying, "Oh, this is great," like church. No, eventually you have to actually do it.
Yeah. So and even rituals, I know people get scared, but rituals is kind of like getting up every morning, praying every day. Just when you take a shower, do something, you gotta pray. It's just like doing a lot. To me, it's just like a concept of prayer, because a lot of it is just like invoking elements, banishing. It's just really praying and stuff like that.
So I definitely think the Astral World, they would love it.
Right.
To be honest, because it's not. William Walker Atkins is a serious occultist, and it's not space cadet stuff. But I think the audience naturally probably curious about the astral plane, and I think that would actually help. It's like going to somebody sane teaching about that. So I think that's a good book. The Astral World, excellent book to pick up.
Okay, and the last one, because people know that I'm really into my art, but Saints in Art, which is I like. It's really good. It's about Catholic. It's about the Catholic saints, and it's a kind of like a reference book, like the Kabbalistic Encyclopedia from David Goodwin, but this is kind of a reference book for art. It has a lot of beautiful art. I actually got this at the Getty Museum in Los Angeles, but it kind of breaks down what the symbolism means, how does it look like, the story of the saint, has each saint in alphabetical order, and it kind of talks about who is the artist or wrote them, and it's just a real good reference book if you're really into art and understanding it from a spiritual level.
Definitely. So, I mean, there's always books we can go into, but those are a good, to me, beginning. And we said some of them you might be on this whole lifetime. So some of you guys, if you're serious, you may not pass those books, to be honest.
Yeah, it's kind of a test. It's kind of a test, and nothing that I can make you pass. It's just like your understanding. Like some of these books you'll probably read and be like, what the heck? I cannot understand it. And what I recommend is sometimes if you buy a book and you don't understand it, continue just feeding your mind so it can be fertilized with knowledge. And then when you come back to read a book, one book that may be complicated to read, one day you may come back, or even one of my videos that you probably think is too deep, you'll come back and you're like, oh my God, this is so easy. It makes so much sense.
Exactly.
So that just means your mind is transforming and evolving, and things are becoming, you can receive, like Kabbalah, receive information a lot easier.
Exactly. So
until next time, peace.